I'm ready.
Thank you, Rika. Thank you, Gary. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to lead the pledge, please, if you'd all would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Lindsay?
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. We thank you for the rain that you have blessed our city with. We pray that you would give us wisdom this evening for the decisions we have before us. And we pray for our state, Lord, for the fires across the state. And we pray for the virus still across the nation, Lord. We pray that you would heal our lands, Lord, and that we would humble ourselves before you. And we thank you so much for Jesus dying on the cross for us. And we pray all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay, the city attorney's report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Boyd Pilchin. City Council met in closed session on one item identified on the agenda. Council heard report from staff. No reportable action taken. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. The next item is public comment on items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Public comment extension, the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. I see we have people calling in. Whoever the speaker is, would you please identify yourself and state your question or comment?
Yes, my name is Mike Neal, and I note that it appears that everyone is maskless tonight except for certain staff members, so forth. I'd like to address this shutting out of the public from public meetings. Obviously, the public's being shut out from the council meeting tonight. And, of course, the GA is taking their opportunity to keep everybody shut out and not have public participation in the meetings in the next 2 days. If you'll note, if you looked around some, if you kept up on the news, the city up in the county of Shasta, they had a public meeting, and they let the public in. For some strange reason, they don't think that the governor's order means that all the public should be denied access. Now, in the process, they found out, of course, like everybody down here, that their citizens are getting about on the edge of their patience with all of the shutdown of their lives, shutdown of their businesses, being forced to go broke, and not seeing the forecast number of people dying like flies all over the place. And I'm suggesting that we're in this situation at this point in Ridgecrest, and we've been talking about this last 3 council meetings as a minimum. We need to just stand up against this senseless mandate, all this silliness with the governor saying we got to get the whole state under my little guidelines before I'm going to let anybody come out from under this clamp down. I think you're going to find people have had enough, and they're just going to start rebelling, and I'm going to start basically advocating for open rebellion to this shutdown and lockdown. It's been long enough. It's been absolutely too long, and it's time for the city to get some backbone and get out from under whoever's demanding that these, meetings continue to be shutting out the public and let the people in to participate. You don't get full public participation in the manner you're doing it tonight. All you hear is my voice. You don't see my body language. You can't see my face, and nobody else's can you see. And you're not communicating fully with the public. And when you continue to lock us out, that just continues to tell the public that you don't really have a desire to do so. You don't want to really interact with them. You don't really want to act and hear from them. So you're taking your opportunity as long as possible to keep us shut out. And I'm asking for an end to this. And let us in the building and let us look you eye to eye. We got important things going on around here, and we need to be not sitting in front of our television screens or our computer monitors having to call in on television any longer.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Gary, do we have others calling in?
No.
Okay, then we will assume that public comment is over since no one else wishes to speak. All right, then we will go to council announcements. Is there anybody on council who has announcements?
So last night we had our Parks and Recreation meeting, and we are looking to apply for a grant that hopefully, based on comments, everyone agreed that they would like to see a pool, and it can be up to $8.5 million. And so we're going to be having some public meetings, and one of the points that we get scored on is public participation. So please be looking on Facebook for the Parks and Recreation Facebook page for notices on upcoming public meetings so that you can participate. And they would really like to see children participate in those meetings, and hopefully we'll get a pool funded for our community. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, no others. Then we will come to the consent calendar. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council Successor Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority Housing Authority regular meeting dated August 5th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, wait a minute. The second item is a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign notice of completion for the Freedom Park restroom project, authorizing the city clerk to file the notice of completion and authorizing the release of the retention funds in the amount of $67,372, 30 days after the recordation of the notice of completion. Number 3, resolution approving the project list for fiscal year 2021 for the California State of Good Repair SGR program for the following projects: electric transit van replacement. Number 4, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest authorizing the application for federal funding for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $262,085. The city manager sign and file the application and execute the designate to the transit service coordinator to both provide, I'm sorry, my glasses are not doing well here tonight, to provide additional information in connection with the application for Section 5311 projects and to submit and approve requests for reimbursements of funds from the department for the Section 5311 projects. And number 5, a revision to Resolution 2050, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest authorizing application for and acceptance of local government planning support grant program, LEAP grant funds. Is there anybody who would like to have any of these items pulled off the consent calendar?
3.
Number 3. Anybody else? Is there any public who would like to have any of those items pulled off the consent calendar? Okay, I don't see anybody, so a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 3.
Second.
Please vote.
Got the power.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item number 3.
Yes, on this question, I just wanted to clarify in here that are we using monies from the state or are we using our own transit money? It wasn't really clear in the fiscal impact.
These are state funds.
Okay.
They come from Caltrans.
Thank you. And this is part of our new program of switching from the...
Right. This is to replace our existing gas vehicles. They're getting to be about 10 years or so old, so that's usually about the time these cutaway buses need to be replaced. So this is starting to get the funding in line to replace them with the electric vehicles.
Okay. And then we've already got the charging stations kind
Yeah,
of...
we have our solar project and our charging fully funded.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Public, any questions or comments? I see none, so a motion.
All motion approval?
Second.
Please vote.
Thank you.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Had to make it worth your trip.
Thanks for the good information. Okay, the next item is discussion action items, a resolution approving the program supplemental agreement with the State of California Department of Transportation for the preliminary engineering work, design, environmental, et cetera, leading to the asphalt overlay of West Ward Avenue between China Lake Boulevard and Norma. Mr. Culp, are you on?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, tonight I've got a procedural item for you to consider tonight. This is a agreement that's typically entered into with the State of California after we have our grant programs approved by you as a part of a resolution to make application for grant monies. This particular program supplement agreement is for doing an overlay project on West Ward Avenue between China Lake Boulevard and Norma Street. And what this is for is to cover the city's obligation for their matching funds of $6,005 that we would ask you to obligate from Measure V funds. And what this particular supplement agreement is for is your preliminary engineering work, which is the environmental compliance design of the overlay project, and then that will allow us to, once we have completed the design and environmental work, that'll permit us to apply for a request for authorization for construction funds. With that, Honorable Mayor, we've got some things we're asking you to consider tonight as a part of the resolution. First of all, to approve the program supplement agreement number F-067 with the State of California Department of Transportation under Master Agreement number 09-5385F15. We're also asking you to authorize the use of $6,005 of unobligated Measure V funds as the city's match. We're also asking you to authorize the city finance director to amend the budget to reflect all appropriate expenditures, revenue, and transfer accounts. And we're also asking you to authorize the city manager, Ron Strand, to sign the program supplement agreement number F-067 for the preliminary engineering work that's required in order to proceed in obtaining our request for authorization for the construction of the overlay of West Ward Avenue. With that, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Are there questions from council?
I had one. I thought that Ward was one of the roads that had seen some damage from the earthquakes, and we were going to get some funding from. Are we still going to be getting funding from that as well, or?
Not in this particular project. This one is kind of a standalone. This of course, is a grant-funded, a regional surface transportation grant, and we will be doing crack repair as a part of this particular project. So this is different from the crack repair grant for doing cracks throughout the city.
So because we had already gotten this funding obligated, we didn't need to get ward repaired through, is that my understanding?
This one.
Okay.
Yeah, this one kind of came first. We kind of had this one launched well before we had any kind of authorization for funds for the crack repair project.
Okay, thank you.
But I do not believe that if we didn't have this grant, that they're going to do a full overlay of the road. If it was just covered under Cal OES, it would just be repairing the cracks itself. I do believe that from Norma to Downs on Ward is going to be repaired through the Cal OES, but that'll just be crack repair, not an overlay.
And then does this provide, so this is just for the preliminary engineering, the design and environmental. Does the grant also provide for the actual work, almost fully funded, or do we'll have a little match of that as well? 12%. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? Is there anyone from the public who would like to talk about this? Please call in right now. We'll give you 30 seconds or so to get in.
I'll be really glad when I drive on this road not to go the thump, the thump, the thump.
I think we all will. Okay, I see no one else calling in. So is there any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item, discussion and provide guidance to the city's representative on the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. I would just like to remind the public here that this is a time for Scott to keep us up on what's going on there, and there is no decisions made by the city council on this. Questions are certainly welcome and understood and needed from both the council and the public. So Scott, if you would like to share with us where we are.
You betcha. Thank you. So the big topic that we'll be discussing in the next 2 meetings with the GA is the replenishment fee. And so I'll give you just a brief history of the replenishment fee. The fee is a $2,130 fee that will be charged for pumping per acre foot outside of what's been determined as the safe yield. And so the replenishment fee will be used for primarily water augmentation into the valley, and so for the purchase of water. And it can also be used for other cost, general manager costs, and the fallowing program. And so it's a 5-year, at this point determined to be a 5-year time set on it. So that's going to be our big discussion. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'm getting a lot of pushback in the community to vote all my properties against this. I got a letter from Cyril's, Save Cyril's. Is this really going to cost Cyril's $6 million per year, according to their letter that they've sent out to all their employees?
That's not a question that I could answer here tonight. So it'd be a good question to format and bring before the board.
We've got a threat from Cyril's Valley, that Cyril's Minerals, I guess, that if this goes through, it will bankrupt them and they will close the plant, which means we'll lose 500 jobs. We've also got complaints from the Board of Realtors. We also got complaints from the Economic Development Corporation that they want us to go slow on this. Do we really have to implement this now? Another complaint, by the way, from all of them is that no one can go down to the meetings because of COVID, and maybe they should postpone this action until people can actually go to real meetings. That I kind of tend to agree with that personally, but I'm willing to listen.
Let me share a couple of things, if I may, Scott.
Go right ahead.
A year and a half ago, there was 10,000 acre feet that could have been purchased by the GSA. It was a one-time purchase for $267 an acre foot. Right now, the minimum they're talking about is potentially $1,000 an acre foot. So if we know that the cost of water in just that year and a half has gone up 5 times, and that is just with those people, the agencies that filed for critical overdraft and needed groundwater was 18 of them. And if we have 18 agencies right now looking for water, anybody who thinks that the cost for this is going to go down is sorely mistaken. And next year at 2021, when groundwater, when those people who aren't critically overdrafted but still had to prepare a plan are going to be looking for imported water, there's going to be even more demand for that water. And so if we don't look at that and say, we may say, there's some people who say they can't afford it now. It's not going to be cheaper in the future. Everybody understands and recognizes we need to import water in the valley. There isn't a single organization who made those comments that don't understand that we are under a critical overdraft, and it isn't getting any better. And we have, I believe it was 19 wells, Scott, that are going to be impacted. Yep. Probably in the next short time frame. 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
In 5 years, and their wells will go dry. And those dollars that we will have implemented to look at how we can purchase the rights to water and put that water to use by selling it to another agency, because we don't have an infrastructure for that now, and sell that water to another agency for perhaps even up to 10 years, because we know that we have a little bit of time frame, and the biggest concern we have is the price of what water is going to be in the future. If we can build our infrastructure from selling water at a higher rate than we paid for it over time, it seems an investment we need to look at. Putting it off does not change any of those things. So help me understand, Scott.
No,
please.
That's very true. The cost and the availability of water is only going to get more costly and less available. And so, and partly too, in purchasing water, we need to purchase water as a first step so that we have a purpose and a reason to build the infrastructure. And for us to get in line and get in queue with the federal funds and monies that we're going to, be needing and required to build the infrastructure, we need to timing is important. Right now there's funding, but we need a job and let's just say a plan to submit to them. And so, but without the water, we have no real reason to have the infrastructure. And so timing is very important in this, not only for the cost of water and availability, but also to move forward on the infrastructure side of it, and to be able to capitalize on the monies that may be available to us through the federal government and possibly state. And so that's a real big part of this replenishment fee. It's a vital step to get us to this next phase of where we need to be with the groundwater authority, or with the big plan. So I think the procrastination part of it, a lot of these folks that have voiced their concerns, there's an overwhelming number of them that agree with the fact that something needs to be done. And so, but a good number of them want to put it off or wait. And I really feel, based on where we were years ago with our water and where we are today, that a lot of the reason why we're where we are today is through procrastination and not moving forward at different times when we should have in the past or should today. So,
now, Peggy, you said how many wells are going to go dry?
They're estimated in 5 years. I'm trying to remember. It was 18 or 19.
Yeah, there's
19.
And they're estimating that based on what?
And the measure. Go ahead.
Well, there's 90 wells that have been damaged, and 22 more that they expect to be damaged over the next 5 years, the shallow wells. And so that's just data that has been collected and
Is that in all the modeling runs or just like the worst case scenario modeling run? Like if we continued pumping at exactly the same rate, is that the worst case scenario modeling run results, or is
that's
that?
a good question. I probably couldn't give you a definite on, but
Okay.
it's based on the data that
Because they
brought
did
into
multiple modeling scenarios, so that's why I
right,
was
based on
curious.
current pumping and current outflow and projected outflow, the numbers stand where they do for, the recharge, the amount of water that we're currently pumping. I mean, currently, we have a recharge of 7,650. We have a total outflow of approximately 32,640, and we have a deficit of 24,990. And so those are huge, huge numbers that with the modeling projections that, we don't look good in the, what I would consider near future. Don't quote me on these dates, but, 2060, 2070, I forget the exact year that the modeling ends. It projects that, our water, groundwater storage, the water amounts that we have would be drastically depleted. My viewpoint is looking at where 37 years I've been, or 37, 38 years I've been in Ridgecrest, that doesn't seem like it was that long ago. So to project out, 37 or 40 years out from now, I think it's critical for the base, for this community, for everybody that lives in this, in these three counties in this valley that composes this aquifer to be looking at getting something done to correct this direction that we're on for maybe not our immediate, selves, but for our kids, our grandkids, the future of this base, and for the future of the whole valley. And so when you look at those numbers, I think it's alarming.
Lindsay, regarding your question, the Kern County Water Agency measures over 100, I think it's 124 wells every year here in the valley. And so they're keeping it twice a year, and they're keeping a pretty good track on what's happening to our
Right,
well
but when you have
depths to
modeling, you
water.
have different scenarios and assumptions, and I knew that there was
Right.
multiple modeling runs.
Well, they
for
can
the
only tell you how much they've changed.
Right.
From depth to water.
Yeah, and that's why I was asking about when we're projecting
I'm getting
out.
reports that some of the wells are actually coming up.
There are some.
Yeah, and well data is something that's been monitored for quite a long period of time. So it's one of the, I would like to call it objective data points that they, have been able, to use. But, there is, some folks say some wells don't drop on the average. I think it's about a foot to a foot and a half a year for the wells that do drop, and that's pretty consistent. But apparently there are some wells that, don't show the same droppage, but depending on geological factors, I mean, that'd be a good question to ask, the well geologist as to the, whys of it. But the overall consensus is the drop is about a foot and a half a year.
For your question, I was looking and I was calculating. So their Cyril's Valley has got 2,413 acre feet is what they use, and I think the fee. The augmentation fee was $2,235. So that calcs out to like 5.4 million. So I'm thinking they must have probably added in the increase in the pumping fee that was just passed as well. Huh?
Yeah, I don't think it runs it up. I think it runs up about 4.3 million. But you also have to understand is that, we are coming to the point where we're going to need a partner for a recycled water project. And without a replenishment fee, where's the money going to come from to run that project? And I don't know if the city of Ridgecrest wants to, cause our ratepayers' bills to go up to do a project for somebody. So this funding may also be able to address that. And that's 2,000 acre feet of steady water.
You say the GA will pay that?
No.
There could be a possible customer. It could be the water district. It could be Cyril's. It could be the groundwater authority. We don't know. It could be any one of the three that may work with the city to be able to do a recycled water project. We are looking for a steady customer to take that water so we can add that towards our deficit.
I know we've got public online. Do we want to continue asking and go to the public? or you
I
want-
just had one more quick question because I wanted to clarify. Do we have an agreement or a potential one for where we're getting the water from? And then also, do we have a potential agreement for how it's getting here?
So we had early reports back from consultants on, where water could be bought, the prices of it. Of course, that has changed. It's gone up since that time frame, which I, haven't been on the board all that long. But so once we have a, say if the replenishment fee was passed and we had a means to go ahead and start searching for that water, then we would have to jump in at the current market values and who, that would all have to be negotiated out, who, where, what, and the prices of it. Yeah. But there's no way to set, it's probably worse than the pool estimates from years back. They're not good today, but it gives you a baseline of, about, and that's where the estimates of the prices of the water were derived from.
And then,
I'm sorry. But both the Water District and the Groundwater Authority have a consulting firm that they're using to find imported water.
Can I make a suggestion? I know some people, when they call in and they're put on hold for 10 minutes, they cannot hear what's going on.
oh, okay.
So I'd recommend
Right.
we take the calls when they come in, so
Okay.
they're not cut off from us. Then they ask questions that we've already talked about because they didn't hear.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take let's take the list of callers we have. Caller, please identify yourself and state your question or comment.
Yes, the name is Burnell Blanchard, Searles Valley Minerals Honorable Mayor and City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you, and thank you for taking this call. I wanted to express SVM's opposition to the replenishment fee and to announce the Save Cyril campaign with Mr. Maurer was generous enough to comment on since he received the document, and explain the basis for Cyril's opposition to the replenishment fee. Our opposition is similar to that expressed by Scott O'Neill of the Economic Development Council, Charles Cordell from the Water District, Carol Vaughn, the Realtors Association, and Chris Ellis of COSO Energy. Specifically, all of us in all of the writings and documents submitted to the Groundwater Authority have expressed clearly that we understand the basin's in overdraft and a sustainability plan needs to be in place and working by 2040. All of us want to see a plan that benefits from open meetings like the one you're having here tonight. And we want to see broad participation in that process, which every one of the people I just mentioned has been asking for. It's also our understanding that conservation and recycling that Mr. Strand just mentioned and fees all have to be part of the mix of solutions to the basin overdraft. But SVM doesn't support the imposition of this water fee and voting on it now because we haven't had that broad participation and because if you look at the announcement sent out by the the Groundwater Authority, the only organization that feels the entire and full effect of that fee, only organization, is Searles Valley Minerals. It's being asked to pay the entire fee in full and subsidize other users as a consequence. In fact, I'd like to comment on Lindsay Stevens' comments earlier about the math of the fee. It's very simple. The fee would be for Searles Valley Mineral an extraction fee of $105. This new imposition of a replenishment fee of $2,130. Together, those add up to $2,235. Now, last year, Searles Valley Minerals pumped 2,708 acre-feet of water, which it paid for in full. That's on record with the Groundwater Authority. We expect to have about 2,750 to 2,800 acre-feet this year. If you do that math, you are over $6 million, going back to Mr. Maurer's earlier comment. So, yes, that's exactly what it is, and the fee will be imposed on a monthly basis. So Searles is being asked to pay $500,000 a month starting in October. And it's paying for a fee or a plan that will not bring one drop of water to the basin during the entire time that fee is imposed. Not a drop. It allows the groundwater authority to play in the water options market. And as you heard Mr. Heyman say, well, they could buy water in the valley, they could sell it to the farmers, they could do a lot of things with it. But it's not going to bring a drop of water because there's no plan. So on a webinar I had with Mr. Gleason last week, and some of you may have seen it or participated, I asked specifically, so where's the water coming from? Well, we're going to try to buy some water across the mountain, he said, and store it in various places, and we may sell it to Central Valley farmers. But I said, how are you going to get it here? Well, we don't know if it'll come from Northern California or Southern California, from the aqueducts or from AVEC, a whole bunch, but no clarity at all, and certainly no plan to get this water we will have a right to, which is an option, to get it into the basin. So it's not that we don't agree that fees are part of the mix and that we don't need water, but we need a lot of these smart people in this community to participate in a solution. Now, the other thing is, I don't agree with Mr. Heyman's characterization that having open public meetings with broad participation is procrastination. It simply is not. This has all come to a head in 2 years. There's a GSP that got submitted in February of this year. The public was initially told the plan would cost $1.5 million to prepare and submit a groundwater sustainability plan. We were recently told in June, no, it's cost over $5 million already, and it'll go to $6 million. And guess what? We need a new fee now. We need to go from $30 an acre foot to $105 acre foot, which is proposed to be voted on and implemented next year. Now, all the money we're going to collect, or proposed to be collected from the replenishment fee, will go into one big fund. In fact, the proposal in the very engineering report that speaks to the shallow wells you just talked about, and there are 21 of them, which is 2.5% of all the wells in the basin. They're projecting approximately that many would become shallow. All of this money is being proposed in the engineer's report to be put in one big fund with no independent credit line or accounting. So it looks to be something that could lead to the same kind of overspending on consultants and lawyers that we recently experienced. So that's why we have said we oppose the vote and would ask this council recommend opposing the vote by delaying the vote. Not that we don't need fees, whether they're augmentation fees, replenishment fees, extraction fees, the names have changed. We know there's going to be fees in the mix, but we recommend and ask the council to say delay this vote until you can get broad public participation. I mean, the organizations who are coming out in opposition to this are responsible members of this community. The Economic Development Council, the Realtors, the Water District, Coastal Energy have been here for a long term and want to be. Searles has been in the valley and has been here 140 years. We've been pumping water from the basin since 1930. We're well-established members of the community, and most of our employees live in Ridgecrest. So that's the point I just wanted to get across, and I'll be happy to answer any questions any of you have. We'd certainly love to work with the city in terms of recycling water. It's a concept we're quite interested in.
Sir, we have come to the end of your 5 minutes. Let me ask
Hey,
Council.
I appreciate that very much,
No,
Honorable Mayor.
please stay on. Anybody in the council wanted to speak or ask questions of him?
I would like to say thank you for calling in and expressing your opinion, and I support that we need to keep these people employed in our valley. And I appreciate you saying you understand that a plan needs to be put in place and fees will have to be charged, but this seems preemptive. So thank you for calling in and expressing all that clearly.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
What is your proposal on how long you'd want us to delay this?
You know, Scott O'Neill said he recommended a delay of 1 year. I would propose a delay of about 6 months till February of 2025. I mean, I could certainly support Scott O'Neill's proposal. He has much more history in this valley than I do and knows a lot better all the resources we could draw on. But for me, a 6-month delay to February of next year would be, with the interest this community has in this issue, would be great.
Sir, you said 2025. You mean
I'm sorry, I meant 2021.
I just wanted to make sure where you were going.
No, you're perfectly great catch, Miss Honorable
We
Mayor.
just wanted to make sure. There isn't
February
anybody here, let us state for all of City Council, there isn't anybody here who wants to see Searles Valley Minerals leave this area, let employees go, or do anything. We will do what we can to support you because we are together. Many of your 700 employees work here, live here and contribute to this community, so we don't want to see that happen. I appreciate you calling in, and I encourage you, where the decision is going to be made on Friday, to call in at that time to the GSA.
Can I clarify one more thing with him? There has been some talk of delaying collecting the fee, and you're not interested in just delaying the collecting the fee. You're looking for them to delay passing the fee, correct?
Yes, specifically, yes. I want the community involved.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that for collecting, Ron, though, or for passing the fee?
Collecting.
Yeah, so they still want to go ahead and pass it tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah, and that's what we're opposing, is passing the fee. Delay the passing until the whole plan is clarified.
Thank you.
Fees will be collected later.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brunel.
Hey, thank you all for your time. I know you went over the 3 minutes, and I do appreciate
No,
it.
you're fine. You had 5, and you were fine.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Is the next person, please identify yourself and ask your question or comment.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Dave Matthews. I want to mention, first of all, about the sound. The sound would be fine if you all would just speak into the microphones. I've got all my volumes turned up as much as I can, and it's a little bit better. But I was watching, some of you were talking into the microphones, and the others were talking to the people next to you, but not into the microphones. Now,
We will do so. Thank you, sir.
thank you. What I would like to address is there's a regular board meeting tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, tomorrow and also on Friday.
Friday is a public hearing.
Correct.
Correct. All right. The whole valley users, not just the well owners, all the users are subject to that fee. That is the impression I've got, and that is what I am addressing.
No, sir.
And I have put
Not
in
a
my,
de minimis user.
I'm sorry?
Not a de minimis user is not, according to what we've
No.
proposed to adopt. They're not part of it.
That came across on their notice for the public hearing.
But the de minimis users still have a right to turn in a protest vote.
Right. He just said, are they going to be part of this? No.
The fees aren't.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a public hearing on Friday, and every property owner in my in the knowledge that I have is involved. And what I am wondering about in that particular notice is there any leeway for churches, nonprofit organizations? Is there any leeway for multiple property owners? I have a son-in-law who has not resided in the valley for years, but he's got 10 properties here in the valley. And I've got his protest letters ready to drop off as soon as I can get them in an envelope. So I would certainly support a delay of the implementation. So I don't know what that's going to mean for the public hearing on Friday, but they need to take that up tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next caller, please identify yourself. I know. I can see that.
Can you guys hear me? This is Joshua Nugent from Mojave Pistachios.
Thank you, Joshua. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've got some prepared comments I'm going to read, and then just a couple of little addendums based on what I've heard this evening. So we offer these comments on the proposed replenishment fee be considered later this week by the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. The authority's board, of which you are a member, is about to take a major step down an economically disastrous road for existing businesses, agriculture, and the economic development of the Indian Wells Valley. We urge you to rethink your support for this illegal, unsupported, and egregious fee that will require farmers and other water users to pay $2,130 per acre foot, a sum that is vastly more expensive on a per acre foot basis than any other similar fee adopted or proposed by any groundwater sustainability agency across the entire state. If you wanted to draw the ire and the eye of local and federal politicians and policymakers, this is a way to do that. I don't think that's very wise to do in a time when we're trying to survive through rebuilding the earthquake and after the impact of the COVID on our economy. To further, this development fee suffers from fatal procedural and substantive flaws. The process was largely occurred behind closed doors, and while the California Constitution requires notice of a publicly accessible hearing location, this did not occur. Rather, Friday's hearing will be closed to the public, and the authority has refused to reschedule the hearing until a time when in-person participation can occur. The authority has also erected significant barriers to public protest. For example, not allowing electronic submission of protests by requiring an original signature and failing to accurately disclose instructions for in-person delivery of protests. Stakeholders such as ourselves were blatantly eliminated from the process. Not only does this violate the principles of open government, but the lack of due process will create liability for the authority going forward, and as a member, you should be concerned. The exorbitant and unprecedented proposed fee represented a complete departure from the letter and spirit of California's SGMA Act. This fee will be very expensive to the Indian Wells Valley Water District ratepayers. At over $2,000 per acre foot of water, the fee will be unfairly shouldered by the citizens of Ridgecrest, local ag producers, and family farms. The IWVGA board must reject the adoption of this fee and work with all stakeholders to craft a fee, which we do support, that is legally compliant with Proposition 218, transparent, clearly defined, and that properly spreads the burden of shortage across all water users in the basin. A solution here can be gained through good faith and full participation of stakeholders. So those are my prepared comments. I thank you for your time. I'd also just like to add real quick that remember, this fee is just to buy a potential right for the entitlement to water. It does not pay for any of the annual cost of wheeling, dealing, and transporting that water. It also doesn't pay, as you'll see in the GSP, for the over $100 million that would be required to build either the pipeline from Cal City or, against the opposition of Inyo County, to put in a water bank with the LADWP. So again, I thank you for your time. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak to you, and I hope that you guys will encourage your representative to vote no on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Did anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Caller, if there's another one on, please make your call. I hear you right now. Caller, please identify yourself and state your question or comments.
Yes, my name is Mike Neal. And unfortunately, 5 minutes would only cover about probably about a tenth of what I could have to say about this entirely faulty plan and this ridiculously expensive fee. But I will point out a few things that have not so far. I appreciate the very substantive statements by the gentleman from Searles Valley, and then Mr. Nugent that just I believe went just ahead of me. Let me just state that first of all. It's actually bordering on fraudulent as far as the basis that they are claiming that they have created their water allocation table and then basically targeted the water district users in Searles Valley to shoulder all of the cost of that. Now, the only real reason it is because they are the easiest target. Mr. Gleason last Thursday said that the Navy has not claimed Federal Reserve water rights. And yet, anybody who's been paying attention all this time knows that this table has been stated basically in board discussions that, well, the Navy told us they own all the water in the valley, and then they told us they want the GA to, give all the water that they want to the Intercurrent CSD and to the Trona Domestic Water Company and to the domestic wells, and then let the county and the city off and then go after everybody else. Well, they didn't say that. And in fact, in the engineer's report, Mr. Heyman has actually read this on the section right before you get to the allocation table. It says the GA has presumed that the Navy is going to exercise its Federal Reserve water rights. They haven't done that. Now, let's talk about this allocation table in another light. They've left out all these other water users, and they want the water district and Searles Valley to bear all of the cost. Well, if you add up all these water users in the valley, you get about 1,700 acre feet of use. Now, that's a significant portion. And let's talk about what has never, ever been considered in this equation, which stands out like the elephant in the room that somebody's tried to put a curtain in front of and ignore, is the over 2,000 acre feet of potential recycled water from the Ridgecrest wastewater plant. They've acted like that water just isn't going to be there. And yet it is. And everybody knows that. And that would reduce the amount they're trying to fund by about almost 50%, right there. And then if you share that cost more fairly amongst other users in the valley, that 50% reduction could be reduced a lot amongst all the other users in the valley. But, this is the road that they're choosing to go down. And also, on top of all that, Mr. Gleason is basically saying, if you paid attention to what he was talking about the cost, and they're going to sell water, and they're going to make money off of that, they want to now become water investment bankers. Now, they're not presenting that to the public as such. They've said, we want to go buy the right to buy water. They didn't say a single thing about turning around and selling it, and then using it for other purposes, such as paying a general manager or paying for who knows whatever they decide. And that in itself is entirely fraudulent. And I resent that, and I could just go on and on, but these are some high points here. And I don't see how a conscientious person could actually vote for this fee in light of all of these problems and all of these deletions of actual fact that would reduce the cost significantly to people in this valley. And yet now you've got, Searles Valley people all scared, rightly so, that their company might decide to lay them off, be out of a job. So let me ask all of you, how would you like it if Mr. Heyman votes for this and the others vote and it passes and the fee goes into play, and then Searles Valley turns around and says we can't afford it, or at least not entirely, and so maybe they only lay off 200 people and keep the other 500, as reported they have 700 employees. How would you like that? 200 people out of work in the valley, boom, just like that. Now what are you going to have to say about it? This thing needs to be canned right now. It needs at least a year, because they don't want to work real hard on it. So they only want to have meetings once a month. So 6 more meetings is not even going to come close to curing the problems we got with all the resistance and all the control behind the scenes by the lawyers, who are the ones who initiated this whole thing. Started it off in February and jumped the gun and said, we got to have a fee. We got to have a fee. And here we are.
Your 5 minutes are up, sir.
Well, let me just say, this is the worst engineering report I've seen in years and years
your
of being
5
an
minutes
engineer.
are up, sir.
And you people need to not pay attention to it at all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there another caller waiting? Caller, please identify yourself and state your comments or questions.
Hi, my name is Chubb Griffin. Hello, this is Chubb Griffin. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Please speak.
Okay. I just wanted to call in and tell you that.
Please mute your phone. Chuck, please mute your phone.
Not your phone, computer. He's talking
Your
on the phone.
computer or whatever. Mute whatever you're talking on, you're listening on. That's what we're hearing back from you, what I just said. If you mute whatever you're listening on,
Okay, I will go in the other room.
Okay. Okay, go to the other room and go ahead and speak.
Okay, I just wanted to tell you guys that I'm in opposition of this fee, and I hope you guys will consider taking a no vote on this tonight and having your representative vote no on Friday. This fee, if implemented, will be detrimental to Searles Valley, first of all. We all know that. Searles Valley's been in this community for years. They've donated baseball fields to our children. They've been here to support us, and I think it's time that we stand up and support them. If this fee passes and Searles Valley decides to close, what would happen to the community of Toronto and those residents that live there? That the water is provided to them by Searles Valley. So we have many issues facing that. So that's just one of the first things that I'm in opposition on this fee for. The second, I understand the de minimis user is not at this time required to pay this fee, but there are small mutuals that, to my understanding, will be held accountable to this fee. So if there's 10 customers on a mutual and they use 15 acre feet of water a year, that's $30,000 divided between 10 people. So there's going to be a lot of added costs. And then I was listening earlier and I heard Ms. Breeden talking about that we could sell the water. The water is a commodity, and we don't know what the market's going to be for the water at the time that we go to sell the water if we obtain the water. So who's going to pay the difference if we pay $100 an acre foot and we end up having to sell the water for $50 an acre foot because we don't have the negotiating tool to say, well, we can use the water in our valley because we have the infrastructure to bring it in, and we don't have that. So they know we're caught there saying we've got to sell this water, so we're negotiated down and we don't know where water's going to go. So there's too many unknowns. The biggest thing that I would like you guys to look at is COVID-19. This has been detrimental, and now to have a public hearing in the middle of COVID-19 to where the public cannot attend, it's just not right. We need this community there. I've been out collecting signatures in opposition of this. A lot of people are being secluded at home still, which I find hard to believe, but a lot of people are staying home. They don't have the newspaper, and they don't know what's going on, so they don't even get the information because they don't go out. We've collected a lot of signatures on letters of opposition of people that have signed these, and if I can't imagine the number, what it would be if people were allowed to attend a meeting and show up. So I'm asking you guys, please vote to postpone this. It does not need to happen this Friday. We need to work together. This water is dividing our community. We have people that have been friends for years that argue over water and fees, and it's just not right. We've got to come together as a community. I've seen it happen in the earthquakes and everything else that's happened in this valley. And we've got to come together now and not pass the fee when you can see clearly the opposition by people in higher places, officials, different groups. It is not a unified vote. So please, I'm asking you, vote no on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there someone else waiting to call in? I hear someone calling. Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question or comment.
My name is Diane Fouché from Ridgecrest, California. My major comment is I urge you to defer implementation of this fee because this whole thing is not well described. We, the public, have not been properly informed. I don't know how we can say this is something we have to move forward today without knowing the larger plan. The GSP was not adequately detailed. It's my understanding that under the Section 218 notice that there is to be a specific notice and a separate fee for every project, yet embedded within the description of this project, which was very clearly to put our name in the hat to maybe be able to buy water without any assurance of source or future cost. I don't think that putting our name in now guarantees any doesn't lock in a rate because we don't even know where the water is going to come from. But then to find that embedded as a footnote that this fund may also be used for fouling, I think is totally inappropriate. That is a completely separate project that should be identified and disclosed separately. So I have a major concern that these funds, how are they going to be used? How are they going to be managed? How are we assured that they would even be paid for the intended purpose, which is not at all clear? So I urge you to defeat this at this point and insist upon some further definition. My other comment is, it seems to me that this allocation table is not only confusing to me, I do not understand how they came up with the allocation that they're proposing, but at what point does the city, the county or the state have some funding available to help mitigate this overdraft? The county is a major reason why we have the situation that we have with agriculture. So they need to be a player in this, and they need to have some funding in the mitigation process. And I haven't heard anybody talk about that or address that. So those are my major concerns, and I urge you to vote no.
Thank you, Diane. Is there another caller waiting to call in?
Calling Lynn Baxendale Mobile.
Caller, please identify yourself and state your concerns.
Yes, this is Tom Wickner calling. First I have two questions before I can make my comments, if you would please take those questions. The first one is how the agenda item was presented at the beginning for the discussion. It was presented in a manner that it seemed like we're just going to hear from Scott on what's going on at the GSA, and we're not making any decisions. Did I hear that correct?
I did say that we do not take a vote here. There is no decisions. We give direction. We do not give orders. And that is the way it was changed more than a year ago.
Well, it actually does say provide guidance to the city's representative. So we do actually, he's just
we
our
are not
representative.
voting as a unit.
So we're supposed to provide him guidance on how he
That's
should
correct.
vote.
Okay. Thank you for that comment, because that's what I thought. If there were three of you up there that decided tonight that Scott, and this is not a criticism of Scott in any way, so don't take it that way, no matter who the rep was, if there were three of you that decided tonight that the vote should be no from the city's representative, can you give that guidance tonight?
Go ahead. As I understand it, that answer is no. I don't see how.
No, that is wrong. That is what they keep trying to say, but that is wrong. He is only our representative. He is representing this board. So if this board, just like the Water District, gave their representative guidance to vote no.
They gave him a recommendation in the meeting. They did not say, you will vote like this. We cannot do that. We cannot say, Scott, you will vote like this, and he walks in there with everybody knowing how he's going to vote. Because he's not supposed to make that decision until he sits down. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And for fairness of the process tomorrow and any voting that will be taking place tomorrow, it's
Lloyd, can you address the Brown Act issue if we do as what was said here?
That's not a Brown Act issue.
Well, let me have him address that, because that was why we changed it. So would you please address that, Lloyd? Caller, I'm going to take that time off yours so you can still have your 5 minutes.
Hear me.
There you go.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Lloyd? Okay, caller, ask your question, and then when Lloyd... All right, Lloyd, could you address the Brown Act issues if we give him direction?
Yes, I will. Do you hear me, Madam Mayor?
No, sir, we didn't.
Yes, we hear.
We can hear you.
Oh, we hear you, yes.
You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry for that technical difficulty. So, this is Boyd Pilson. So, if I could just clarify the meaning of the word guidance on the agenda. It does not mean, as I've heard several of you say, it does clarify, it does not mean a vote to give clear direction to Dr. Heyman. Guidance means that anyone on the dais, as well as the members of the public, can express their views, which becomes input for Dr. Heyman. It is not, as I've heard you say, Madam Mayor, it is not a formal vote, and it is not a formal action by the council, and it is not a majority deciding what that guidance will be. But rather, if a council member would like, and they are not required to do so, but if anyone on the dais would like, they could express their views, which becomes input to Dr. Heyman.
Lloyd, can you review when we voted on this to agree to become a part of the IWV GSA? That was not how it was presented. I was sitting down in the audience then, and I remember Jim Sanders very clearly going over this repeatedly, because the person is just the representative from our board. So then, because the point is, everybody always says these people are appointed to the board. They're not elected to the board. If they're acting as though they're elected to the board, then they need to be elected to the board. Otherwise, they need to be taking direction from the boards that they're representing. So I think we need to review.
I will review that. I will review that as you say.
Thank you.
Would you also address what if we give direction that you vote yes or you vote no, how that affects the Brown Act on the GSA? Because that was the reason why this was changed.
That's right. So what it comes down to, and I think we've talked about this before, it comes down to whether there is a fair hearing on Friday, whatever day that is, at the GA, whether there is a fair hearing for that vote when the members of the board will vote. And if they come to that meeting with orders on how they must vote, then there's no point in having that meeting at all. So it's important for the fairness of the process that they be open and unbiased and able to listen to what the public comment and discussion and deliberation is at that public meeting in order for that to be a fair decision.
Okay, caller, does that answer your question? And now please continue with your question.
Thank you. So we just heard the attorney tell us right now is that even if 4 of you decided to tell the representative to vote no on this thing tomorrow, he could do whatever he wants based on that when he goes to that meeting on Friday, the input he gets there, he can make his decision there and completely ignore this city council.
That is what our attorney told us.
Then I would like to motion for us to step down from the GSA if that's how this thing is going to be run.
It's not on the agenda, Lindsay.
I'll put it on for next time then.
Okay, so for the people that might be listening, pay attention to this one, that we don't have any control at the city level, apparently, unless they put this on an agenda item to actually vote on guidance to give the representative direction. But even at that, the attorney said it doesn't matter if we voted or not. He could vote whatever way he wanted to. Okay, go to the next step. The Prop 218 hearing, is there a time frame that it has to be finished by? I guess that'd be for you, Scott.
That'd be a legal question to the Groundwater Authority. That'd have to be answered either at tomorrow's meeting or Friday's meeting.
Okay, so being that it's a 218 hearing, we don't know what the deadline is for us to finish it, because I know there's a time frame involved.
I believe the last, from what I've been told, and I think what's been produced by the Groundwater Authority in their agenda, is you have until the end of the meeting to file your protest notice.
I thought it was noon on Friday.
No, I'm talking about in retrospect. Let's say you just wanted to delay this vote 30 days. Does the 218 hearing allow a delay of 30 days even?
That'd have to be a question to be answered by the Groundwater Authority legal at tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, very well. Okay, now to my actual comments instead of questions is that, first of all, agree with most of the callers ahead of me in their comments. But one of the questions I would, or one of the comments I would bring forward is that there's a belief by a number of people in the valley that we do have water available in the western area of the valley, and that I've heard, now I'll stand to be corrected if somebody has corrections, but that some more exploratory wells should be drilled out in the far western areas of the valley for sampling of what we have out in that area. And I'm not talking about the part that we drilled before and they say it's brackish water. I'm talking about further west where they have speculation that there is possibly water available in this valley. Now, my point is that whether it is or isn't available, I'm saying that maybe if they were to have a fee to drill some more exploratory wells so we have a more complete database to make adequate decisions, intelligent decisions, that we don't have water out there, then maybe we would have a better basis to make a plan about having to bring water in. I'm not saying we don't have a problem. We do, and we need to address it. But we need to have a board making a decision with all the data to make a good decision. And right now, it appears, at least from what my research has found so far, and talking to a number of people, including I had a well driller in my store about a week ago, and I asked him specifically, and he agreed with me that there should be some more exploratory wells drilled in the valley to check the water table in different areas where they have not been drilled before. And that, to me, would be a very important piece of data to decide on developing a plan, which right now we don't have because it's pure speculation that we are just going to have to bring in water. Well, what if we don't have to bring in water? Just say, what if we don't? Okay? So if there was water, we wouldn't have to be going through this big fee to bring water into the valley. Finally, I would have to say, if we have to go to the point of bringing water into the valley, we need to force the state to be a participant in this process. And they should be also working to solve the state's water problems. I know this is kind of big and kind of vague, but it's not just our problem. The state has numerous areas where there's water problems. The state should be stepping up in their aqueduct system to keep water in California, store water in California, and distribute it to California, including the Indian Wells Valley. They're not doing it. Nobody's forcing them to do it, and they're throwing everything they can to not store water. We let 70% of the fresh water flow out of the state into the ocean every year, and nobody is forcing the state to stop that stupid practice. Store the water, distribute it in California. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there another caller waiting to call in? Caller, please identify yourself and state your question or comment.
Hello, good evening. This is Derek Hoffman. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Derek Hoffman. I'm an attorney for Meadowbrook Dairy, which is a family-owned farm of more than 100 years. And I am here to address the proposed Groundwater Authority replenishment fee and the fouling program that are being considered by the Groundwater Authority this week. And I'd like to urge this council to, I will say, strongly guide Councilmember Heenan to vote these matters down this week and to defer and significantly amend them. The Groundwater Authority, as you may know, adopted a groundwater sustainability plan in January of this year that is flawed and incomplete, and it's also inconsistent with the Signal Law and the California Department of Water Resources regulations. The GSP has drawn legitimate and extensive criticism from local, regional, and statewide stakeholders who have each identified the many flaws, critical data gaps, and biased and extreme groundwater management actions in the plan. The Groundwater Authority doesn't know how much water is in storage, and it has ignored evidence of much greater average annual basin recharge. Now, as was discussed earlier, the authority projects 22 shallow wells, potentially going dry, out of over 1,000 wells. And as the gentleman for Searles mentioned earlier, that's about 2% of the total wells. I would point out that the model projecting those few impacts is deeply flawed, which is well documented, and can't identify where those 22 wells will be. And even if it is 22 wells, there is a way to mitigate those handful of shallow wells without bankrupting the community. Remember, too, that the plan has not even been reviewed or approved by the state and won't be for at least a year. The core concept of the plan is to protect the United States. The plan has not even been reviewed or approved by, The core concept of the plan is to protect the United States Navy at any and all costs. The Groundwater Authority has improperly determined, as though it were a court of law, that the entire basin groundwater supply belongs to the Navy. Whatever the Navy doesn't need goes to a select few pumpers anointed by the Groundwater Authority, who are not required to reduce their pumping at all and are conveniently exempted from paying excessive pumping fees to buy imported water. Now, this is all based on an unfounded and false legal theory that an unestablished Navy water right claim can be pumped by non-Navy pumpers, not even located on the Navy base. Even Groundwater Authority counsel admits that this is, at best, an open question of law. Now, at the same time, the Groundwater Authority is now using the same legal fallacy to force fallow farmers like my client by expiring their pumping and forcing them to pay fees in excess of $2,130 per acre foot to buy an undefined, unidentified imported water for all of their pumping if they desire to remain in operation. The forced fallowing program and imported water fee is expressly designed to put agricultural entities out of business. The fallowing program also includes no CEQA analysis, no analysis of dust impacts or other environmental impacts from fallowing potentially thousands of agricultural acres of land. The projected $25 per month increase to city residents' water bills is just the beginning. The replenishment fee report provides no analysis of the infrastructure costs to deliver imported water, which, as others have commented tonight, will be far greater than the cost of the water itself. Meanwhile, the Groundwater Authority improperly exempts many pumpers from paying their required share of the fee, including hundreds of so-called de minimis, or in other words, small pumpers. De minimis pumpers are not exempt from fees under SGMA law, and they cannot be exempted under Proposition 218. The Groundwater Authority wants to exempt them anyway, while your citizens see their water rates spike. The fee, as was noted earlier, is strenuously opposed by Searles Valley Minerals, the Indian Wells Valley Water District, agricultural interests, COSO Energy, business owners, thousands of property owners, the Economic Development Corporation, the Ridgecrest Area Association of Realtors, and many other stakeholders. The Groundwater Authority has already entered into tolling agreements to delay lawsuits challenging its action. So, again, we respectfully urge this council to strongly guide Councilmember Heyman to vote no on the replenishment fee and the fallowing program. The Groundwater Authority should instead complete a proper and vetted GSP and take measured, fiscally responsible actions to manage groundwater in the basin, working with rather than against major stakeholders. And as a concluding comment, SGMA requires robust stakeholder engagement and consideration of water users' interests, including agricultural users like Meadowbrook. So making decisions as impactful as these under conditions.
Derek, can you line this up? I'm sorry,
yes,
sir.
This is my concluding point, and I note that that's an interesting time to make that point while I'm commenting on the deprivation of public process here. But the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority has systematically excluded the public and its committees from the details and critical information in developing the GSP and these extreme fees and fallowing programs. I sent a letter to you all earlier today. I hope that you'll read it. I hope that you'll thoughtfully consider it. And again, I hope you will strongly urge Councilmember Heyman to vote no on these programs this week. Thank you for your thoughtfulness and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there another person ready to call in? I hear you.
Yep.
Caller, please identify yourself and state your concern or questions. Caller, can you hear us?
Yes, trying to mute my TV right now.
Okay, can you?
Okay, I got it. Yes, my name is Richard Wagner, 408 South Lincoln. I'm calling to protest the replenishment fee
Please mute your computer or whatever you're listening to us on, other than the phone.
Trying. Okay, I think I got it this time.
Okay, thank
yes,
you.
Richard Wagner, 408 South Lincoln. I'm calling in protest of the replenishment fee, and I would like to urge you to have Councilman Heyman vote no on the fee.
Okay, is that your comment, sir?
That's it, yes.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Caller, if you're ready to call in, please do so now. We have a few moments here. Gary, are there callers waiting? It appears that all the callers are in. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, callers. If there's anybody else who wants to call in, please do so now. Otherwise, we'll go back to council comments.
Can they still keep calling while we have our discussion?
Pardon me?
They'll still be able to keep, if they call while we have our discussion.
Well, we'd like to close public comments if they don't want to make comments now. Okay, council, let's then thank you for your public input, every one of you, much needed and appreciated. Council comments.
I personally would like to see this postponed for at least a couple of months. I think the public has a good complaint about not being able to go to the actual hearing. I mean, they're going to be there all day tomorrow, Friday, and into the night if they take all the calls that come in, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of calls. And
if we put let me ask you a question, and I'm not trying to be critical, but if we put it off 2 months and we still can't meet, what do? We put it off another 2 months, or what do we do?
Well, I don't know if
I don't know either.
If we're going to be in lockdown for the next 2 years, well, I think everything's going to end in November 3rd anyway. But that's just a personal political statement.
Let me say something here. Today, Matt Constantine, who's the Department of Health Services head in Kern County, spoke to the Rotary Club. And one of the questions that he was asked is, why can't churches meet? In one of the churches, there was a funeral, it would have been this weekend. They had plenty of room to have more than 75 people sitting, that many people sitting the 6 feet apart and maintaining the social distancing, but yet they could have their funeral at the mortuary here in town, which didn't have as much room as the church did. And Matt responded that that wasn't his rule, that was the governor's rule, and that there was nothing he could say that they're still with one person. That meet and you can't meet with, because the question he was asked was, I thought we could have 10. He said, no, you can have 1. And so clearly it is an issue of how long is this going to go, and do we put off accomplishing our governmental business that needs to be done till when we can meet? And that's the question we're going to have to figure out, because I don't think there's any easy answers. If people don't want to call in, we've given them plenty of opportunity to call in. If they want to come down here, are there going to be 100 people and all 100 speak 5 minutes? I don't know the answers.
Well,
I just don't know that it's going to be better in 2 months.
So, but I would say, based on the amount of letters that we've received from Searles Valley, number one, putting 700 people out of a job, that should give everyone some pause at moving forward with this. Then we've had the IWV EDC, the geothermal, the Board of Realtors. There's also, yesterday I asked, there's nearly 3,000 of these protest votes that have been turned in. And these protest votes weren't like, get this mailer and circle it and mail it back in. These were like hard-earned protest votes.
Oh, I heard 1,900. Are they at 3,000?
They're up to almost 3,000 now.
Yeah, but they need 10.
Right. But what I'm saying is, is this has been in a less than 30-day window to collect this amount with not a lot of public access anywhere. Like, and people can't meet to gather these things. So this is a very hard time period to even solicit getting the protests. So I would say that's pretty impressive. We haven't even gotten 3,000 protest votes outside of COVID time before on something in a 218 hearing. So to me, this shows that there is a significant concern with proceeding with this fee right now. And I think it's unjust to do so. And so I would strongly, since that's what my hands are tied to, urge that we vote no on this for Friday. If it's closed on Friday, and I don't want to hear delay collecting the fee till January, because that's still you passing the fee. That doesn't really do anything. I want you to vote no on passing the fee for now. And I do think Mr. Neal made very valid points, and you even mentioned it yourself, Ron. We have 2,000 acre feet of water that we know could cut this fee in half, potentially. So that's a big deal. So
but we
if
won't have that for 2 or 3 years. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. We don't even know where we're buying the water from. And I'm also very uncomfortable hearing them say that we're going to become water investment people, and so we're going to buy water and sell it at a profit. Like, that's not what government's supposed to do. And this fee is going to cover the general manager's salary.
Well,
and there's been questions on, is this...
I would like to say that I hear that tossed around that we're entering into a business of water brokerage, but we're not. We're talking about taking advantage of the time frame with which the infrastructure will take and to make money back, which seems like a logical, reasonable thing to do. So, but
the other elephant in the room is that we know likely if this is passed, a huge amount of litigation is going to start piling up against us, which are costs also that are going to be racked up significantly. And so I think that's something to be strongly considered, because that's a cost that we will see, and whether or not that's covered under this replenishment fee, or if legally that can't be covered under the replenishment fee or the pumping fee, who pays for that litigation? Where does that money come from? And if it's only two, and I feel like I appreciate them explaining that when you say 21 wells, that sounds bad, but when you put it in the perspective of that's 2% in the valley, that's pretty telling, that maybe 2%, and there's other things that can be done to prevent even those 20, which is less than 2% of the wells in the valley, from being harmed. And that's a projection. We don't even know that for sure.
Well, and that doesn't make the wells wasted. They just have to drill deeper, right?
Yes.
Well,
which surely,
where you
could be done for less than $55 million that we're going to be collecting with
I thought
this
it was 52.
Well, either way, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. You were trying to speak. Go ahead. Oh, you're not, or you are?
I'm good right now.
All right. Is there any other council comment?
So, Doc, if we can cage this conversation back to providing you guidance, and then actually let's all take a step back here and talk about this issue in its entirety. So far, especially since I got appointed, what was that, 6-7 months ago, I spent nothing but reading about water. And then in the last couple of months, talking to the various stakeholders and entities. And so far, I've yet to hear any one entity disagree, and even on the phone tonight, just everybody agrees that something's got to be done. Something has to be done. Matter of fact, I think that everybody seems to agree that for the last 30, 40 years, something has to be done. I mean, am I making a correct statement here?
Yes.
So I think I would, right, if we were taking a vote, I would urge you to delay this. And the only reason I would urge that is because it's the execution, right? The execution and the way the public sees this. I think that all the work that you guys have done has been great, but I don't know if the public sees it. I don't know if they feel like they're informed and completely on top of things. Now, I don't know if that means you re-engage with renewed vigor to get tax and PACs back together, if you guys can spend time meeting multiple times a month, whatever that is. And I don't even know what a delay looks like, because when we cage this conversation in that context at 30, 40 years, let's say 10 years, let's say 20 years, when was Sigma? When was Sigma passed? When was the first ground?
2014.
Right? So even that many years. Now, of course, now that money's being discussed and people are going to feel it in their wallets, now people are really involved. Right? And I understand that the GSP just got passed. Matter of fact, I understand this whole issue at length, and what's probably the most exhausting thing about this, and how I've heard it discussed tonight, is it's being discussed as if it's a binary thing. You're either on one side or you're the other. But I can tell you, if you talk to stakeholders over this whole valley, that's not the case. You'll have some agriculture telling you one answer. You'll have others telling you another. You'll have the real estate board telling you something different. And yeah, all of them do generally add up to the majority of this valley wanting this delayed, but I think we need to look heavily at what that actually means. What does delayed mean? How long is that going to be? Is 6 months enough? Is a year enough? Was the last, 2016, was the last 4 years enough? So I'm not saying this at you personally, but it would be my hope that you guys can discuss that, right? That you can talk about how to re-tackle this issue. Because if everybody's complaint is there hasn't been enough public involvement, okay, COVID's probably created that. I think we can all agree with that. But to simply make this a binary issue, of course, I mean, that's why I'm saying it is more not just for you, but for the public as well. If you're just now tuning in and you're starting to get excited because you see your bill going up, this isn't a binary issue. This is a complicated matter. There is so many wheels turning that if you don't understand every aspect of this issue, then you need to get a hold of somebody on this council, get a hold of Doc Heyman, get a hold of people at the Water District. I've talked to a lot of intelligent people over the last couple of weeks. So maybe I'll get off my soapbox for a moment, Doc, but I don't envy your Friday vote or what you have on your head.
This really has been going on for 40 years, because about 40 years ago we had two geologists on base that totally disagreed with each other on the recharge of the valley. And that was Pierre St. Amand and Carl Austin. Carl Austin said we had all the water in the world. Pierre said we were going to run out. And then Carl said he went for the geothermal. Pierre said he was stupid. Geothermal turned out to be pretty good. And Carl Austin said, I'm going to prove him wrong on the water too. And then Carl Austin retired and left. So,
Well, and to that end, I've read countless reports, salt and mineral reports. I've read a white paper, a lot of inputs from Stanford. I know there's data out there ad nauseum, and all the data points to we have a problem. Everybody agrees we have to do something about it. And now that money's getting involved, everybody's saying, whoa, pump the brakes. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. If when it's going to hit your wallet, maybe it's time to start. Everybody pay attention. And maybe now that we have everybody's interest, maybe now that everybody is watching. I mean, I was looking at YouTube, and we have more people watching tonight than I've seen in months. That's a good thing. So maybe people are more involved now, and maybe you guys could use that to your benefit. It's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but my hope is that you guys can tackle this with more public involvement.
this is a hard decision for you to make, and I'm glad you're making it, not me, but...
Well, I will say it makes my work at the city council look easy. So one thing I would like to say is that, there are time constraints, there are guidelines, there's, requirements set by SGMA and by the state for us to, reach certain goals, have a plan, and enact what we're working on. And if it fails, the state is the one who will take over and dictate and guide us. And by all information that I've gotten from, through the year and a half or so in there, is that doesn't look warm and fuzzy.
Why not? They did such a great job on COVID. Why couldn't they?
I want everyone to remember too that that's the backup plan. And so, while a lot of people may not agree, I think everybody agrees in certain areas. Just about everybody agrees that we need to do something. Lindsay brings up the percentage of, there's, certain percentage of people that are vocally against it. If we were to put that percentage against, the numbers against the total population, that's a small percentage in same just way that you described the shallow well mitigation. So there, I hear both sides. I listen to everybody. I listen to those meetings. I don't miss the pack and tack meetings. I've not missed a meeting yet. And I do take in what everybody is saying. And
how was the fee?
Well,
how
let
was
me
the
finish
fee
real quick.
arrived at?
Let me finish real quick. And
The $2,000, $2,100.
So I speak to a lot of people out I speak to a lot of people out in public, and I ask them about this, and I get told to my face, they're blatantly against it or they're for it. I can't tell you how many people that when I explain it to them go, oh, we need to do something, I'm for it. The numbers are equally as high, equally as, or more so, than the ones that say that they don't want it. So yeah, it is difficult decisions to make. But I can assure you the board's decisions will be strong and based on the betterment of what's good for this valley. So
may I just say something? I'm sorry. Were you? Go ahead.
Go ahead. You can.
When I was chair of the GSA, Daniel Gutierrez, who's the head of the Department of Water Resources, came down, spoke, I think it was from that spot, and we asked him, if we don't do this, this was 5 years ago, if we don't do this, what are you going to do? And he said, it's clear. You are short 2/3. You're overdrafting the basin 2/3. At that time, it was 2/3. We will simply cut everybody 2/3 the water usage. That's everybody. Well, a little bit has changed that we can't cut the Navy. So let's just take that out of there, because you're talking if they pull their reserve rights, that's even more. And I don't want the state telling us what to do, how to live our lives, because we couldn't come to a decision. We all knew something had to be done. And to say that we haven't been communication goes two ways. Don't think I'm overestimating too much when I say we've had 2,000 hours of meetings. Some of them would go 5 or 6 hours, 2 or 3 times a month. And anybody who said they didn't know what was going on, it requires both here and here, and you have to participate. And if you chose not to participate, it was your choice. And it is not our choice to say, I'm sorry, because you just decided now to get involved, we're going to put things off for a year or 2 or 6 months or tomorrow, well, past Friday. It isn't fair to the whole entire community to say, I'm sorry, you didn't listen, you didn't care, and now that you can see how it's affecting your life, your lifestyle, and your pocketbook, you are communicating now. Now, many of these people, all the organizations we've heard from that are individuals, I would say were there for every single meeting. They voiced their concerns, agreed, disagreed, learned from each other, but we do have a responsibility to quit kicking the bucket down the road. It doesn't solve anything. The ability to be able to purchase the rights to water is probably one of the most important things we're going to be doing for our future. And purchase the rights to water with reasonable prices, with opportunities for this community to grow. Because anybody who says, I want to grow, and then know that we may have our water cut up to 2/3, don't plan on building houses. Don't plan on those things that are going to make our businesses grow. Yes, we are going to pay an impact for this, but we are going to invest in our future because we can grow. The base can grow. Our businesses can grow and our families can grow, and we can sell houses and we can sell products to the people that come in here. If we say, no, we're not going to do this, and we'll do it in whatever, we know that the cost of doing so is going to be significantly higher than it is now. And if we want to pay if water went up in a year and a half 5 times, in another year will it go up 5 times, so it'll be $5,000 just to purchase the water, $5,000 an acre foot. I don't think that's a wise investment in our future. I think our future depends on us biting the bullet, doing the right thing, and understanding, yes, we're going to hurt for a little bit, but we will have a future. And that we are not going to tell our kids and our families that your ability to live and grow here is not important. And I'm not saying those people are doing that, because clearly we heard Searles Valley Minerals eloquently say they want to be part of it. They are part of it because we have water that can help them continue to operate. That is what the next process is. They know that. We know that.
But we could, if we delay this, that would give them time to have the ability to negotiate that before this $500,000 a month fee is enacted on them.
Well, it's going to be $500,000 a month, but
On Searles Valley, it is.
if it's
well,
$6 million,
if we enact on it, yes. If we, because we have water,
right?
we can be the
no,
solution.
what I'm saying
part
is,
of it.
if you pass this fee on Friday, it will start being collected, and it's $500,000 a month.
Okay.
We're several years off from being able to. So for several years, they're going to be paying $6 million a year. But I also want to say, what we also have heard is, like Mr. Whitnick said, this needs to be a state solution, because we're just recreating the problem that Owens Valley has had. Owens Valley, LADWP has come up and bought water rights, or took them from Owens Valley and sucked that place dry, and now they're having a big dust bowl up there and a lot of health issues. We are going to purchase water rights. We're not making new water. We're just buying water from somewhere else. And so potentially at some point, they have surplus now, but maybe in years of drought they don't. Or at a certain point when so we make an agreement, and our agreements historically haven't always been rock solid, where we say we're buying it for $2,000 an acre foot. Well, when someone comes along and you're saying it goes up to $5,000 an acre feet.
I'm not saying it will.
That was the example you gave. Then I would say that they would probably pretty quickly exit out of our agreement and go for the $5,000 acre feet. But I think the scare tactic is, like, people are tired of it, and I think hearing that 700 people may lose their jobs, that's pretty serious, and will be pretty detrimental to economic growth and development in our area anyways. If we've forced a business who employs 700 people out of the area through this fee, I don't think there's going to be a lot of businesses lining up to come here to build when our fees are that exorbitant, especially given the climate in California, where many businesses are already wanting to leave. We're not making ourselves look very attractive.
So without water, none of the things that the mayor talked about or what you just mentioned are the businesses coming are feasible to begin with. So we have to have water. Secondly, I'll give you an example of what you were discussing just a minute ago. Bakersfield went through a similar process back in the 70s where there was they wanted to buy water. There was a big fight over, whether they should. They spent $17 million. It was, they got it through, and today that water is priceless. So that's an example of years back to today, from today to what we can expect in the future.
Well, if water does go to 5,000 acre foot, the city's going to be in real good shape.
Well, one of the things I think
because we have that 2,000 acre.
One of the things I think should be looked at too is, the critically overdraft basins are, leading this. They're doing their work, sooner than the other ones. But as those other basins come on and everyone starts looking at buying water, there's big money out there. Municipalities, cities that have way more funds than we ever dream of having. And I think it's reasonable to say that they're going to be in there buying for that water and shoring up their aquifers and shoring up their citizens' water for the future. And rightly so, everybody should be doing it. So I think it behooves us to be on that leading edge, to be, taking advantage of the situation currently, take advantage of, infrastructure and project funding through the federal government, while there is a crack in the door to stick our nose in right now. So, but we can discuss growth, we can discuss all these things, but without water, we don't have that.
That's true.
Okay, is there any other comments here from the council? Nope. Staff? Anything? Okay. We will go to the next item.
I would like to say a quick, I want to thank everybody who has called in tonight and taken the time to voice their opinions and to write letters and participate, and to the council for giving me your thoughts and ideas on what we're dealing with here. I do consider it well received, and I want to thank everybody for their participation.
All right, the next item is ordinance number 8, the introduction of the first reading and ordinance of the City of Ridgecrest City Council amending portions of Ridgecrest Municipal Code sections 106 through 31 regarding home operation permits, occupation permits. You have it. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So tonight I have before you an amendment for our ordinances. This was brought about through the code recodification that Ms. Charlon initiated. When we were doing that process, we found multiple areas of our code that were outdated or that could just use changes. So this tonight is one of those changes. So home occupation permits allow the use of homes for commercial activity for the actual home resident. Our municipal code currently restricts certain businesses from home occupancy permits. Cosmetology and cottage kitchens are not currently allowed in the home occupancies. These businesses are permitted through regulating agencies. If someone wants to sell a particular food that they make from home, they can go through the Kern County Environmental Health to get a cottage food operation permit. In order to receive that permit, the applicant has to show that the city approves of the home occupation. The same is true with cosmetology. So currently the city code does not allow these home occupations. So you can see the current code. The changes that we are recommending is the removal of A and B there. So that would allow for cosmetology and it would allow for the cottage food. We're also making additional recommendations to further clarify what how many could operate. So for cosmetology, we would say that only the one, person could operate. You couldn't have multiple people operating out of the home. These are all pretty standard. Lots of cities have done this, lots of counties. This isn't particularly new. We're just trying to catch up and give you guys some options. This was taken to the Planning Commission. We conducted a public hearing on July 28th. We heard no public comment at that time, and the Commission did approve a resolution recommending the amendments to City Council.
They may not have got any public hearing, but we got a lot of them, didn't we?
Boy, I've heard them.
That was going to be my next comment. I wanted to make sure you all received
We've gotten
the
a lot
emails that I
of
forwarded to
comments
you.
from the public.
Okay.
So.
Let me ask a question, if I may. Can we make it very clear, beyond any reproach, if this happens and this is approved, that this isn't the end for, I'm a beauty operator, I have a garage, I have a separate entrance, and I want to have my beauty shop, my facility in my garage. I'm done then. The city said it was okay, I'm done. Can you make that clear that what the next steps are so they don't think, because we've given them permission and they're hiding in their, they're operating in their garage, that nobody will ever know?
So the process for the cosmetology, which would be the same as the cottage kitchen, when someone comes and gets a request to home occupancy, they usually don't start with us. They usually start with the agency that regulates it. So someone's going to go to Kern County Environmental Health and try to get this permit. And Environmental Health is going to tell them, you need to contact the city and make sure they have permission, because Environmental Health won't give it to them. And the same is true with the cosmetology. So the Board of Cosmetology is going to say, does the city allow this, and where's the proof that the city allows it? This is true across most things. The massage, ABC, it's standard. So that's normally how they would even come and get a home occupancy. So at the same time, we could make sure that we are double checking the same thing, because it doesn't remove any restrictions from the agencies that regulate it. It's just that right now, the only thing that prevents them from doing it is us. So that's the only reason.
But they can only have one chair, right?
Right, correct. As we are recommending.
For the hairstylist.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
I can't open up my garage and have the four of you cutting hair in my garage.
Oh, I'll be there. Cut my hair.
I need someone to cut my hair.
One of the things that I've heard from, and I'm sure everybody else has heard, if are the people who own the salons. The impact on the salon owners is particularly difficult because they now have invested for years in their salon to grow it and make it appropriate and used by the public. And we're saying, sorry, you guys, we're allowing this to happen and we're impacting. As one of them said, you're kicking me where I don't want to be kicked, simply because you want to take my people out and put them in. And I said, we're not advocating that. We're simply saying this is a possibility for us to look at. Whereas many of the hairstylists and manicurists and all of them are going, hooray, hooray, I can earn a living.
Well, to that I would say the Board of Cosmetology has some very strict guidelines. So this is not something that most people are going to be able to do. As you mentioned, you have to have a separate room. You have to have a separate entrance. You can't advertise with your address. You can't have any signs. As with all home occupancies, this shouldn't be something that disrupts your neighborhood. This shouldn't be something that your neighbor really knows you're conducting. So that kind of atmosphere versus the atmosphere that you would find in the salon is going to be completely different. And it would be up to the consumer to decide, do you want to go to someone's house or do you want to go to the salon?
It's kind of like home daycare. Like you have the difference between home daycare and then a regular daycare facility. And people get to make that choice on what they're comfortable with. And given today's climate, right now, technically, working in a salon environment isn't permitted. So a lot of the comments that Rick has sent us were all from people saying, hooray, I need to be able to make a living. My kids are at home with me. I'm virtually schooling. And so to be able to earn a living and do it from my home, like this would be a huge blessing for me. So I feel like we're kind of stopping something that we should be allowing. And I think also there's a lot of times the facilities, the salons have a lot more nice to haves available, that if someone's doing it in their garage, likely you're not going to have the same atmosphere. Let's be honest. If you're in it, and it's 115 degrees, so it's probably not going to be as pleasant in someone's garage regularly as it would be in a nice salon downtown.
My garage is only 95 right now. So.
Well,
I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but this is going on right now.
yeah,
It is going on right now.
right.
It's been going on. I remember back in the early 70s when I first came to town, I know somebody was cutting hair in her garage.
Right. Well, and I think the
I'm
cottage
sure she didn't have a
kitchen
home
thing
occupation.
too, the regulations are pretty stringent on the cottage kitchen. Got me on
That was
one.
good.
Yeah, the kitten thing. The cottage kittens.
When I
But
say cottage, I want to say cottage cheese.
so, but I think it's a great thing, and I think it's only, especially given what's going on right now, I think the timing of this is fantastic too, that we're able to give them an option.
So say, how does that work if a person was offered a room to conduct a one-chair, business out of somewhere other than the home, and not a cosmetologist, not a salon, or but say anything, and so would they be able to do that too?
So do you mean like if you had a room and you wanted to rent it to let someone do it from your house, or what? I'm trying to understand.
Right, other than a salon. I mean, because we're saying it's okay at a home, but it has to be one chair or one person, at a time. So, what's the difference? Where would it be okay for them to do it in a single room or an office or somewhere outside of the home in that same, one person, one chair restriction?
But that doesn't apply here. This is strictly for home occupation. If they're wanting to rent a room for you in a business district, they can do that now.
Right, but and I understand the part of not, the rent part of it, I think is what we're saying here. So if they were given that space, would they be able to do that?
But it's not a home, unless, are you saying someone else's home? That's what she's trying
No,
to
no, a different building. It could be any building, any structure.
Then
But
they
if
just
they had a
get
place, if they had a place to set up one chair and do one person business, why is there a restriction just to the home then?
Well, this is just for home occupancy, so this is just about working from your home. So I'm trying to understand, are you talking about just because of COVID restrictions or in general?
Well, no, this is, I get that it's home based, but I'm saying if somebody was offered, if a hairdresser was offered, hey, I got a spot over here, you can have that. It's, one tiny room and you can set up a one chair and go to town.
Yeah, I think the Board of Cosmetology allows you to set up, I mean,
Well, yeah.
You can open a business.
There wouldn't be a restriction in it.
Right.
Okay.
Let me interrupt here so we don't lose any of the callers. Caller, please identify yourself and state your question or comment.
Hello, this is Tom Wegner calling. I just have a simple question. I would like to know, define cottage food.
Go ahead.
The cottage food permit is what the Kern County Environmental Health calls it. So we would just stick with that because that's what they allow. So cottage foods are foods that they find to be low risk. So I'm not entirely sure of all that includes or that it restricts, but it's limited in nature. It might be jams, jellies.
Like baking and
like
jams
what
and
you see
jellies.
at the farmer's market.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would think that if we're the licensing agency, we should know what cottage food means and make sure any license would cover those particular foods. Am I right?
The Kern County Environmental Health is the licensing agency. We are just saying that if they can apply and meet the regulations of the Kern County Environmental Health, that we agree to let them do it from their houses.
Okay, but that's not answering my question, though. Without a definition of what cottage food is, and I'm not going to start going on a list of types of foods or anything like that, but how do we make sure that it is a cottage food? When we issue a business license in Ridgecrest, the business license says what your business is. What is cottage food?
Yeah, Kern County Health.
Because they're inspected.
So before they can get the home occupation permit, do they already have to be permitted by Kern County Health?
Typically, it's the other way. They have to get the home occupancy, but that doesn't, just because they have the home occupancy doesn't mean they're allowed to conduct business without following the environmental health permit.
So is there a way that we could have a back check to
Yeah,
make sure
absolutely.
that if someone applies for the home occupation permit, that then we follow up after a certain period of time that they've actually then gotten the second part of that from the county?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Any of you who have occupied, do those kind of things know the health department comes out and inspects you periodically, and most of the time with no notification. So you have to know that you're going to be checked, that you're doing it right and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Same with the cosmetology licensing boards. They're going to come in
Yep.
and, they can come in and inspect and make sure you're doing everything.
Yeah,
And
we just
ultimately,
don't
they're the
want-
ones that are going to tell you whether you can work or not. We're not telling anybody that they can actually
Right.
perform that
Yeah.
business.
We just need to make sure we follow up on it, I guess is all I was saying, so that they actually followed the second step.
It wouldn't hurt if the city had the list of foods that are allowed, though.
It's on their website. I do have the application in my office. I just haven't memorized it in entirety.
Okay, well, I appreciate the comments I just heard there from a couple of you up there. That, I would just hope that when it comes to food, my only concern is that they do have that health permit, and I understand they can come in and, inspect anytime they want and blah, blah, blah. But I would like to make sure that when we issue a business license annually, that they provide evidence of a valid health permit to continue their operation, not the other way around where they got to go and get it. We should make sure that they have that health permit before we issue the license.
Thank you, Tom.
That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to call in and make public comment before we come back to the council and finish? Yes, please identify yourself and state your question or comment. Please mute your, please mute it. Thank you. Okay, go ahead and speak. Not your phone, but what you were listening on, your computer.
Muted everything.
So you're still connected, just turn your mute off for your phone, but your computer, leave that muted, or whatever you are listening on, the television. Caller, are you still there?
Leave that muted.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'm here now.
Okay, can you identify yourself?
Yeah, this is Chuck Ruin, 1213 Carolyn Street. I think it should just be a matter of a formality. It sounds like the city's really trying to just eliminate one more bureaucratic step. Like everybody up there said, it's still regulated by the health and state. People are really kind of losing, I think the government's losing complete control. I mean, I get my hair cut every 2 weeks. I just took my kids today. When this is over, I'm going to continue to go to the same place I went to today and get my hair cut. But it's now a habit. So all the people that are trying to do it, wait this COVID out, are getting totally screwed. So I think really to have this long of a discussion about the city just trying to eliminate one step so these people can make a living, this should have already been voted on. I mean, it's that simple in my opinion. We've really got to reach out and try to help these people. And it sounds like the city staff has come up with a good recommendation, and we should definitely at least do that at a bare minimum.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Right. Any other callers who would like to call in, please do so now. Otherwise, we'll go back to council comments.
Let her finish her.
Do you have more in your
No, I'm
presentation?
done.
Oh, I make a motion that we approve the recommended changes.
Second.
There's two motions you need to make.
Two.
Okay.
Please. The first
So
one's
I
right
motion to waive reading in full an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, amending portions of Chapter 106-31 of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding home occupation permits.
Second.
there. Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Okay, I motion to introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, amending portions of Chapter 106-31 of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding home occupation permits.
Second.
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
I'd like to state one more time for the public that because we've changed the municipal code, does not mean you are approved to do it. You may not do it, do this particular thing in your home without the state approval and all the licensing that you need from any other agency. So please don't think, oh, I can do it now because the city has given us permission.
Well,
May
yeah,
I
and-
give you permission?
And that's something else I wanted to foot stomp as well. Is that this was a cleaning up of the code. This is how this came about. This was not a recommendation because of COVID-19 we wanted to open things up, because it doesn't. And in reality, if you look at the details of how especially salons, and especially what you have to go through with the State Board of Cosmetology, the truth is it doesn't get you a whole lot. It really doesn't. The amount of hoops you have to jump through to put a chair in your home is a lot. So that just needed to be put out there, because there's a lot of salons, a lot of places that were, and that's another thing I needed to mention, that they did give us feedback and quality feedback, that this isn't as easy as just issuing a permit. So everyone needs to understand that. This is not something that the city council or that the staff recommended as some sort of COVID-19 measure. This is a cleaning up of the code. It needed to be done for a long time, so here we are.
I'd also like to state, Mayor, that this is only the first reading. It will come back again September 2nd for the final reading and adoption. Then it will take 30 days after that before it's even in the code and legal. So we have some time here. Nobody can just do it tomorrow. Okay.
And people can still hear, and people can still protest and call in if they want. Right.
Okay. The next item then is committee reports. The Finance Committee.
Yes, we met and went over the budget interim review, and that was it.
How do we look?
Actually, things are looking better than expected as a whole. So yes, and we'll be able to report back on it with some actual numbers, but the overview is looking better than anticipated with the circumstances of COVID and loss of revenue. So, yep.
Given the idea that the financial impacts were under, I really thought it was going to be awful. I thought we were going to be in a difficult financial position, and it was nice to see that because of the planning we'd done ahead of time and preparing for potential after the earthquake, what we thought we would see. And we prepared for this, and we didn't realize we were preparing for COVID as well as dealing with the earthquake. So I'm very proud of staff and what they did. They gave us the opportunity to see we could have been a whole lot worse, but we weren't.
I think we're looking at, about 2 months out on the having the full numbers.
Are we seeing too, I'm just wondering if because of all the restrictions, we're seeing more people staying here locally and spending more dollars locally? Like, does the sales tax look different, the revenues at all?
We didn't.
The sales tax numbers are lower, but I do believe that part of your assertion is correct, that people are sticking around town, so it's probably not as low as it would be if we were a high tourist area.
Okay.
And like vice versa, gas, because people aren't traveling quite as much, so that might be a little bit lower, but still better than I thought it would be based on, the fact that so many people are staying home.
Yeah.
I asked,
The impacts of TOT I thought would be blessed awful. We were as low as 20% and of what we were before, and now we're up quite a bit, up to 40, and as things continue to hopefully get better with the base rebuild and those kind of people coming in and spending dollars here and staying at we've got this past week with all the people that were, the week before last, some of our hotels were at 98 and 100%. So some weren't, but some were, and that's good.
Good, thank you.
And a lot of people eating out and restaurants who changed their ways of operation are doing about 70% of what they were doing before with a whole lot less labor to do it.
It's hard to get people to eat out at 115-degree weather, though.
Yeah.
But they're doing it.
But they're still doing it.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Or ordering in.
I'm doing it.
I did it last week. We went
Okay, infrastructure.
We did not meet last month, but we're going to meet a week from tomorrow.
Okay. Economic development.
And we're just to back up on infrastructure. Bart already left, and I don't know if they've asked you, but we are talking more about this lighting and landscaping thing that has popped up. Do we know for sure if that's on there?
Okay.
No, but I can see if it is. Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Because I do believe they were preparing for how it came about.
Okay. All right, next, Park and Rec and Quality of Life.
Yes, we met yesterday. We had a very good meeting. Good news, we have received one grant, and likely the plan is to partner that with some of the impact fees, so we could have potentially a project that's over a $300,000 project, which we're looking to have a meeting next month where they will come back with kind of a menu of ideas of where we will use that. We do have to use it all in one location, and it has to be in a park in a low-income area, so that leaves Freedom Park, Kerr-McGee, or Leroy Jackson Sports Complex as the choices. So likely it will be probably looking at fields of some sort. So
great job.
And then they are seeking, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, applying for this other grant. Likely we will need to hire someone on. And then the other thing to note is in the near future, it will be coming, Rika, to be on this agenda. We have to make a 30-year commitment to fund whatever we're going after. So
if it's a pool, the maintenance of the pool, yearly maintenance and that type of thing. And then we're going to have, 5 meetings?
yes, a minimum of 5 public
Minimum of 5 meetings before December.
Yes,
Or
the application is
December.
due in December for the grant, but part of the application has to be a commitment from the city to fund maintenance for this project. Likely the pool would be that was the only suggestion we heard yesterday from the public. And we can't solicit that. We had to take it from the public of what they would like to see the grant for. So
We need to make sure we get the Lions Club involved with that
He
because
was
they've
on the
collected
call.
so
Yes.
much money. I know that
and
we were
he
talking
was
to
he
him.
was on the call.
Yeah.
Mr. Morgan was
Good.
on the call representing the Lions Club, and that's an important note. We need a minimum of 3 service organizations to be nonprofit service organizations, and one of them needs to be a health one. So hopefully we'll be contacting the hospital, but we can have more than 3 service groups that want to partner with us and say how they would use this facility and how it benefit them.
They don't have to put up money. They have to help utilize the service provided.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So basically saying, for instance, the hospital could say, this would be great for seniors in our community as a therapy pool, and we plan to use it that way. Not just that they support the project, but how that group would actually use it.
Right.
So.
All right, the next item is the Ridgecrest Area Visitors and Convention Bureau. Melissa?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I have the update for the RACVB. We met this morning. In terms of signs, we have identified 3 potential places for billboards along the 395 to promote Ridgecrest. They have also taken down 2 signs that indicated the old B&B. So those will be updated. The website will also be updated with all of the hotels and potential filming locations. We have also gotten news that the new location for the California Welcome Center, the roof has now been replaced. And so they're looking forward to the timeline that they've put forth in terms of moving into that location. The filming inquiries are up, and it's increased at the end of June due to the marketing plan that they've shifted to. They are mostly focusing on filming due to the fact that it's safer to market than potential travel currently. And then in terms of star reports, since we were talking about the hotels and TOT, the monthly total is at 36.5%, which is an increase from from 25.5% last recorded. So that is my update, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other committees, boards, or commissions? Did anybody have any?
I've got current card tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm going to do it by phone call again.
Okay. Okay. City managers report.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm going to have Melissa update further on the RACBB, or actually the Chamber of Commerce sign.
So the city and the chamber have been working together, and we've established an electronic sign committee. The sign off of Bowman and China Lake is going to be revitalized. So they are moving forward. They are going to Planning Commission for their conditional use permits this month, and are going to be going through City Org with their memorandum of understanding once they've met with us and come to terms. And then it will be here at council for you guys to review. So we're hoping that by the end of the year, they will have finished the project. And so the sign will be up and running, hopefully. So, thank you.
Very good.
Melissa, may I go back and ask you a question about the RACVB?
Of course.
One of the signs as you're coming into town is way far off the road, and I understand it's part of the easements that they have to abide by. But I've heard a number of people say they never even saw that sign because it is so far away. And maybe and I know it's only been up a couple of years now, is there a way to look at the effectiveness of each sign? Is there a way that they are measuring how it's being used and utilized?
Yes, yeah, they have figured out, well, they've really been working with Caltrans in terms of sign safety. It is fairly difficult to get signs on 395 in general. So they worked out that agreement, and the distance from the road, it was predetermined beforehand. So in terms of them finding effectiveness, I believe in terms of their marketing, they can get a report as to who has seen it, how many people are driving down, and get driving reports on that. But as of right now, I don't have that information.
Which
But
sign
I
are you
can.
referring to?
The one as you're first coming into town before you turn on China Lake Boulevard?
The one down
That one that sits a mile away. I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
They update it.
I've noticed that one. Can we
Yeah.
pick a better marketing scheme?
Well, I think that the importance is, and I've seen that sign has had several different things on it.
Yes,
And
they
and when you're
changed
going
it.
by there at 70 miles an hour,
It's hard to see.
if you have too many words on there, you
Yeah,
can't read them
can't
all.
Yes,
see. Yeah.
So it has to be pretty simple. It should be pretty simple.
So the way that they have targeted, the drivers in terms of safety, they look at icons and sort of like cups that are familiar, not necessarily using any logos or anything, which goes against what Caltrans advises, but they have familiar items that somebody can identify from the road as a place for amenities or food or things like that, or hotel stays. So they've routinely updated that to what we are currently marketing. So.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, I just got one more item. The Freedom Park upgrade is almost done. The bathroom's in. The gazebo is nearly done. We had it restuccoed. We had the metal rails fixed. They were broken and loose and a hazard. We had the cap of the gazebo painted. And I'd like you guys to pay attention to that, because we have the opportunity probably next budget cycle to maybe paint the caps that we have here at City Hall that same color. I think it looks well as a dark green. So maybe next budget cycle, we'll be looking at finding funding to be able to paint our caps here at City Hall. The paint's faded and they're starting to rust, so we need to maintain it. But obviously, I'd like to have some input. If you guys get a chance, take a look at that. Let us know what you think. If you like that color scheme that we can put across the building, that'd be great. We should also be finishing up. We finished the concrete. They're replacing all of the dead trees and missing trees there by the new bathroom. as well as putting decorative rock in. So we're hoping that whole project will be done here in the next week or so.
And your painting comment reminded me, I wanted to say something. Our Parks and Rec people over there, while it's shut down, the staff is going to be painting the meeting rooms. And so I thought that was, I want to say, I think that's really fantastic that during this downtime, the staff is going to be using this time to paint the rooms themselves. So while the rooms aren't being utilized, and that's using staff time. So thank you for doing that. I like seeing that, like when the bus drivers painted the bus shelters. I think that was great. So
You're talking in the Kerr-McGee Center?
in the Kerr-McGee Center, they're going to be.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't mention when we were discussing water, is we're sitting on property that was donated by Kerr-McGee. All this property was donated by Kerr-McGee for us to build the new city hall in Kerr-McGee Center years ago. So they've been a big part of our community.
Yeah.
Ever.
They are. Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
all my
Ron,
that's all my comments, Madam Mayor.
that's all you have? Okay. Future agenda items?
If the replenishment fee passes on Friday, Rika, I would like to add discussion and potential action of us stepping down from the groundwater agency, please.
I don't think you're going to get that to pass, but I think we'd be foolish to get off of it.
Well, we can discuss it certainly at that time. Okay, any other future agenda items? Okay, Mayor and Council comments?
I have one or two, actually just one. Last meeting, I was a little disappointed when a certain individual challenged us all to give the authorization that the governor has in order to support his dictatorship in the state. And he said that we had all signed, vowed to uphold the Constitution, and we were all in violation of that because we couldn't tell him when. So anyway, Government Code 8571 gives a lot of authority to the governor. It's, let me get to it here. During the state of war emergency or the state of emergency, which we are under right now, the governor may suspend any regulatory statute, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And if you go down to 8572, in the exercise of the emergency powers hereby vested in him during a state of war, emergency, or a state of emergency, the governor is authorized to commander, da-da-da, but down at the end is the important part. It says, 8573 says, the governor may cooperate with the president and the heads of the armed forces and other agencies of the United States and with officers and agencies of other states on matters pertaining to emergencies. He may take any steps he deems necessary to put into effect any rules, regulations, or suggestions made by such persons or agencies. And I think that's where the courts are upholding his rules.
I would like to say that I sent the gentleman who made that comment to me, wrote me a note the next day and said that I couldn't tell the truth. And so I sent him those codes and haven't heard back from him. So I'm assuming he has found out that we did tell the truth. So.
Well, 8571 is what I was referred to first, but when I read further down to 8573, it really gives him a lot of authority.
Yep.
So we can explain all we want and disagree with what he's doing, but
there is a court case coming up on October 21st, Gallagher and Kiley versus Newsom, where they've gotten a court hearing scheduled to challenge his use of executive orders, especially the one on mailing out all of the ballots. So
on what?
Mailing out ballots to everybody.
Yeah. So he's
that. Okay.
Yeah, but it's addressing multiple things because of all the executive orders he's signed during this period of time. So they're challenging that in
well,
the court.
I think the county is planning on going ahead and having polling places because I served as a volunteer. Well, volunteer, I get paid $30 or whatever it was for being at a polling place last election, and I got an email asking them if I'd be willing to serve again.
But they're still mailing out all the ballots, correct, Rick?
They are mailing everybody in the state of California ballots. but you are eligible to drop them off. You do not have to mail them so that you can ensure that they're counted and not lost. And you still have the ability to vote by vote in person. There will be still voting precincts all throughout the city. Kerr-McGee is still going to be one of them. You are allowed to come in person. There will be way different protocols put in place, and it's probably going to be long lines because they're only going to allow so many people in till another person leaves, another one can come in.
How will they verify if you receive a ballot in the mail and mail that in and then show up to vote in person?
I can't answer that question.
Let me tell you how,
they
you
do
know,
their
and
protocols.
I probably shouldn't say this, but I agree with the president on, there's a difference between mailing everybody a ballot and having, I get my ballot sent to me because I requested it.
Me too.
And the way we handled those last election was our list marked whether or not you had received a ballot. And if you received a ballot and you came in, you either had to bring that ballot in with you or we had to give you a provisional ballot so they could verify if your ballot actually came back, your provisional ballot would be canceled. So as far as absentee ballots, the state has a very good handle on those because we had to deal with it. And you can't believe how many people came in to vote and said, oh, if I got a ballot, I threw it away. Yeah. And if they did, then they had to get a provisional ballot because then they may or may not be counted by what they verify. But our list of those voters did say whether or not they got a mail ballot or not. So if you request a absentee ballot, then you ought to pay attention to the mail when it comes in.
And I would,
and a lot of people brought those in personally and dropped them off in the ballot box.
yeah, and my suggestion would be that do the same thing with your ballot that's mailed to you. If you get it and you don't want to use it, don't just throw it away because you want to come vote at the precinct. Bring it with you because then when you do, they'll see that you got your ballot, you're not voting twice, and they'll give you a real ballot, not a provisional ballot. And I don't mean real ballot, as in the provisional is not real. It is. It's just held until they verify that you did not also vote by mail. So if you plan to come in and vote, bring your mailed ballot also so that you can get a non-provisional ballot.
But don't bring Cottage Kitten in with a ballot. We won't accept it. Cottage Kitten.
Do we also, so given that this process sounds like it may take a while, have we ever had to delay, like, because normally we do that the first part of December, so.
We've never had to that I'm aware of in our history, but this may be a first.
Okay.
If it takes a long time to get people in and voting and ballots to get back and everything, yeah, it could take a while if we have to verify who mailed in and who didn't and who's provisional and, yeah.
Got it.
I hope you volunteered then to do it again.
I did. Actually, they asked if number one, were you willing to do it on the day of balloting? And number two, would you be willing to serve other days? Wow. And I said yes to both. Now,
yeah.
You have to go through a training period.
That's the first I've heard of multiple day voting. I have not heard anything
Well,
about
I'm
that.
not talking about
Yeah.
it being multiple day voting. I'm just talking about would you be willing to serve multiple days?
But that would be multiple day voting.
Or maybe
Not if they
ballot
have a
counting. It could be ballot
It
counting.
could be ballot counting or whatever. And we had to balance at the end of the night. Every polling
yeah.
place had to balance at the
Every
end of the night based on the number of ballots they took the end of the, and
Yeah.
we were out of balance a couple. We had to really. It took us about a half hour to actually balance.
Just because the polls close at 8 o'clock does
No,
not
we're
mean
not
they're
done.
done
We
at
were
8
there until
o'clock.
after. We were there until after 10.
The Kern County employees don't leave Ridgecrest until 11 or 12 o'clock at night by the time we verify all of the precincts and everybody delivers them to one central location. Then they load it in a van and they drive to Kern County. So our stuff doesn't even start getting counted until early in the morning. So it's not an 8 o'clock process and we're done.
Well, you know, years ago when I first ran for city council, we actually had a city election. It was held in April, and everything was done right here.
When was that, Mike?
Back before you were born. Smarty. On that note, are we done?
Well, I just want to make sure there's no other comments. Okay, thank you all. We appreciate your participation, and we'll see you next meeting. Thank you.
And I will
Meeting
put
adjourned.
I will put my mask on to go outside.
Yes.
By the way, these masks, and I want people to know, I wear them in and out. I don't wear them when we're socially distanced. And some of the comments that have come out from health authorities, I think it was Wisconsin head health authority said that you should wear them even when you're Zooming to set an example. You're home all alone, and then they said you should also wear them when you're doing certain personal stuff, which is totally stupid.
Yeah. Not your eyes, Mike, not your eyes.